I know it inspires me too. Here are a couple of poems. This is actually a poem that I wrote. It was one of those evenings, a cold, dark evening, and once again the theme of being cloistered and isolated. And I was channeling Emily Dickinson, and I felt like I really got a sense of what she was going through as she was sitting in her room. So I wrote this. This is kind of my homage to Emily Dickinson. In my cavernous room, shadows cover the walls, and I hear the leaves in the trees outside rustling. My room is my escape from the sorrows of the world and the thankless energy of the human condition. But on this night, stark and windy, my room offers no solace, for in the dead of winter, as the town lies in slumber, the batteries in my vibrator have died. Thank you. Now here are a couple of poems that are from my childhood. This is the first one. It's just a little short one I decided to throw together. Tall patches of grass came up to my knees as I ran across my grandfather's poppy farm. Stalks of wheat rustled in the wind. In the distance, a young boy with red hair and freckles offered me a glass of fresh squeezed lemonade if I let him poke the dead body with a stick. Now this is a poem about my other grandfather, who is sort of a quasi-legend in Maine. His name is Grady Taggart. Now every year, the first snowfall of winter would cover the foothills outside of my grandfather's house, kind of like a cold, wet blanket. Now when my grandfather died, it had been 50 years since he had started this long and pointless feud with his neighbor, Jack Joe Higgins. Now one year during this feud, it was the morning after the snow fell and it covered the pines at the edge of the horizon. My grandfather walked out, walked to his window, and what did I have trouble reading my notes. Anyway, he walked to his window and he looked out of his window and he saw the words, "Up yours," written in yellow in the snow. I always found this a very funny story, and so I decided to write a poem about it. The first snowfall of winter covers the foothills of Maine like a cold, wet blanket outside old Grady Taggart's window. On the night of his death, it had been 50 years since Grady Taggart began a long and pointless feud with his neighbor, Jack Joe Higgins. The morning after the snow fell, past the pines to the edge of the horizon, Grady Taggart walked to his window and saw the words, "Up yours," penned in yellow in the snow. Okay, now this is a poem that is written, it's a dedication to a friend of mine from high school named Donald. Donald was born deaf, and he spent his entire childhood going to school as a deaf person, but he never let that stop him. He always did everything that the hearing kids could do, and you never got the sense that he had any difficulty with anything. And Donald was an inspiration to me, because no matter how much I felt sorry for myself, and no matter how much I whined and bitched about my life, I could always say, my life is terrible and I'm going to wax poetic about it, but at least I'm not Donald. But Donald was actually also a friend of mine, and he and I had a special connection because he was a real inspiration to me, and he was almost a role model for me, that whatever challenges came my way, I could overcome them, just as he had overcome his challenges. So I wrote this poem in a way that Donald would understand. So, forgive me if maybe it's not something everybody else understands, but I think if you watch me, you'll get a sense of what it is that I'm telling him. So, let's see if I can do this. I'm gonna need my hands for this. You know what? Did something drop? Okay. So anyway, this is for Donald. Wherever you are, this is for you. you. This is the last poem. I'm actually really happy about this poem because for the first time I performed it at somewhere else besides here. I've managed to perform a little bit of it near Eton Poets Cafe before I was booed off the stage, and then I went to an open mic at 92nd Street Y, and I just got the most amazing praise after it. People were saying things like, "That was nice," and "Wow, I didn't know you could write," things like that. And that really touched me, and I thought, okay, I'm onto something, and maybe this is the kind of thing. Now, this poem is also, it's pretty special. I'd actually written it several years ago, I think it was 2005 when I wrote it. A lot has changed since then, and there's been a lot of talk of identity, and who we are as individuals and as people, and particularly being proud of what I call the skin you're in. Not being ashamed of where you come from, being proud of who you are, because where you came from is a great contribution to everybody else, and we all have something we can bring to the table. And I think everybody in here should be proud of who you are, be proud of your history, be proud of your heritage. I am. And so this poem is a celebration of that. And since I read it at New Rican, I'm going to try and do it in the way that really got me the reaction that it did. Okay. You may think you know my story because you see my cover. You may think you know the notes to my song because you hear the melody. But I am more than the skin I am in. I am more than just the girl who does crystal meth while mommy and daddy drink brandy in the den. I am part of a rainbow made up of a million colors, like white and ivory and ecru and taupe and alabaster. I am the inheritor of a legacy of those who struggled before me. Every doctor and lawyer and stockbroker and accountant rose out of the ashes of his graduating class at Princeton. I am on a quest to reclaim my divine being and share with all my sisters in the country club pools, in the Olive Garden, in the cul-de-sac, in Lincoln Park, in Beverly Hills, and Scarsdale, and on Capitol Hill. So bite down on this cracker and wash it down with a swig of vanilla loveliness, because we're white and we're proud. We're ashen and we're smashing. We're valid and we're valid, and the revolution is coming to a gap near you. Peace out.